So now let's have a look at some dreams. Remember, by analyzing a dream, we are intercepting an important message sent from the spirit world to you. The spirit world sees everything that is going on in your life from start to finish. And you need to start looking at your dreams for what they are. Messages of guidance on your life purpose and healing for the traumas you experienced. So when I tell you that in this dream, Beckie rescues a baby that has given up all hope, what does this already tell us about Beckie? Well, here's what Beckie says in her comments, very short comments. I looked things up in your dictionary, but I struggled to fit things. I'm not currently trying to have a baby. And that's not even what it is about. She calls the dream Stuck Baby, and here it is. It's kind of short. I was in a large room and I looked up and saw a white, bald baby lying on his side, balancing on a sash window. He was going to try roll off forwards, which would have killed him, but he rolled backwards and fell between the window panes so that he was stuck. He was naked and had the face of my ex-boyfriend. He had the same sad expression on his face the whole time and never made a sound. He was still on his side, stuck between the two window panes, and his face was squashed up against the glass. He was going to die slowly, and he knew it. I climbed really high up some furniture and got him out and held him against me. I knew that I wouldn't be able to ever put him down. There was a big white fridge and I looked inside it for something to give the baby to eat. There wasn't any food, just thousands of little clear plastic packets of doll's house furniture. I opened a few of them. There were tiny peacock feathers and dark green miniature Christmas wreaths. It was a very sad dream. All right, so that's the whole dream. And I want to do something a little bit different. I'm going to read out some of the phrases that Beckie wrote down, her words, and then I'm going to do it again, but with a minor tweak. So here's what she's written. Straight from the dream. He was lying on his side. He was going to roll forwards. That would have killed him. He rolled backwards. What else? He fell between the window panes. He was stuck. He had the same sad expression on his face the whole time. He never made a sound. He was still on his side, stuck between the two window panes. He was going to die slowly, and he knew it. So they're all her phrases. And it's really grim, isn't it? It doesn't sound good for the baby. But we've not cracked the code of this dream yet. What does the dream tell us about the baby? When you consider all those bleak phrases, what does it tell us about the baby? Well, the answer is not what you think. The answer is it tells us nothing about the baby, but it tells us lots about Beckie. The first rule of dream interpretation is that everything in your dream represents an aspect of you. So in this dream, the baby is Beckie, or an aspect of Beckie. And so I'm going to rewrite each of these phrases now, making Beckie the subject, because that's what it is. And remember, in a dream, we know what the dream means during the dream. So Beckie knows that it represents her. She knows in the dream what it's all about. And this is exactly what you can do with your own dream. So here we go. He was lying on his side becomes Beckie is lying down, not standing tall, not in a good place. And this is a scary place. Then we have the phrase, to roll forwards would have killed him. And that becomes moving forward would kill Beckie. Beckie is not moving forward with something in life because of huge fear. That's what that's telling us. Then we have he rolled backwards. So Beckie has gone backwards. The next phrase, he fell between the window panes and then a later phrase, that's what it is. So two phrases, he fell between the window pane, and then another phrase later in the dream, he was still on his side, stuck between the two window panes. Well, they become, Beckie is stuck in a painful place. Window panes are a pun on pain in this dream. He was stuck becomes, Beckie is stuck. He had the same sad expression on his face the whole time, becomes, Beckie is sad. But does anyone know this? Does anyone know about Beckie's pain and sadness? Well, the next piece tells us. The next piece, she says, he never made a sound. So that's Beckie doesn't make a sound. She doesn't alert anyone. She doesn't cry for help. And that's what you would expect a baby to do. But this one doesn't. The next phrase is, he was going to die slowly and he knew it. And that becomes, Beckie feels like she is going to die slowly. So we haven't looked at all of the dream, just some of the negatives, but can you see how we have already cracked it? We know for certain what this dream is focusing on, and we now know something about Beckie that few know. Her higher self knows it. Her higher self knows she feels so stuck that she's almost given up. This is her predicament. That's why she's got this dream. The dream is her higher self acknowledging her predicament and uses the baby to snap Beckie into action. Maybe you would let yourself die slowly, but would you let a baby die slowly? Well, of course not. And that's what dreams do. They use things that are going to snap you into action. So even though the baby represents Beckie, the clever use of this symbol causes her to save the baby and therefore save herself. Look at what the dream causes Beckie to do in response. Again, these are phrases taken exactly as Beckie wrote them. First one is, she says, I looked up. Well, this phrase would almost slip past without notice, but it's huge. If I were to say, I look up to you, it is clear what I mean, and it boosts you. If you were in a bad place, it would help lift you up. And this is the trick dreams often use. Beckie looks up to the baby, but she is also the baby. So in effect, the dream forces Beckie to look up to herself, to respect herself for what she has endured and come through. The next phrase, I climbed really high up. Well, this is about Beckie raising her vibration to climb out of her sadness by overcoming negative influences that got her there. And that's what the furniture represents, those negative influences. I'll come back to that. Another phrase she says is, I got him out. So Beckie has rescued her inner child. This is the goal of the dream, and she achieves it in this dream. And most dreamers do not achieve the goal of the dream. So if Beckie is currently in therapy, this part of the dream shows that it is working. What she is doing is so positive. She is saving her own life. Another phrase, I held him against me. Here Beckie is giving herself the love she needs. And that's crucial. Another phrase, I knew that I wouldn't be able to ever put him down. So in the dream, Beckie realizes she has to hold herself up, to never let go, to never give up. There's a little more here. She uses the expression, never put him down. And to put someone down is the opposite of looking up to someone. Beckie's big realization is that she must stop being hard on herself, stop putting herself down, stop blaming herself. She has to lift herself up and stay up. Again, this is the goal of the dream, and Beckie realizes it in the dream. Yes, there is a lot more to this dream, but if I go into that, it will overshadow the simple way that we just worked out the meaning of this dream. Now I'm going to explain the rest, but know that you don't always need to know what everything in your dream is about. Do what I just did here, and you will get so much of the message of your dream, and be happy with the part of the message that you got. So what else have we got? For the advanced level, why a baby? Well, Beckie even titles the dream Stuck Baby. And this alone tells her her predicament. If we didn't even read any of the rest of the dream, the title tells us that Beckie is stuck and helpless, because that's what a stuck baby would be. And that's when you, as her friend, put down what you're carrying and say, hey, Beckie, what's going on? How can I help you? What is the trouble? But back to the dream. A baby represents a responsibility in life and in a dream. So it is on Beckie to take responsibility for overcoming her own predicament. And that's not the spirit world washing its hand of this. It's quite the opposite. This is how dreams show that getting yourself out of this pain is how you are going to grow. Now that's obvious when I say it. If I learn how to overcome feeling stuck and in pain, clearly that is good news for me for the rest of my life. And so it will be for Beckie. Because first she has to let go of what makes her stay in that space. We see that with Beckie in the dream. The baby is going to die slowly and not cry for help. This is not how a baby is naturally. A baby will cry when they need to. Babies live in the moment. They cry to be picked up, and they stop crying as soon as they're picked up because that's good. Everything's fine now. They cry when they're hungry and stop as soon as they're fed, and so on. They live in the moment. So for a baby to be different, to be so different, and remembering that Beckie is also the baby in the dream, it means that Beckie experienced a trauma as a child which manifests today as her not crying due to her bad predicament or asking for help. She even says it is a white baby. White in this context tells us that Beckie pushes herself. She's really hard on herself, and she's been that way for as long as she can ever remember. She probably sees it as a positive trait, but it's not. Beating yourself up is never a positive trait. You're hard on yourself because you learned to be hard on yourself as a baby. How can that happen? It happens through parents typically being hard on you, and it becomes a learned behavior, which is sad. If you're sad, you're going to keep it to yourself. But why? Well, that's the question I would ask Beckie. And Beckie, you get a free call with me for sending in this dream. So this is something we will figure out if you don't already know it, but I suspect you do. And that's what you need to heal. And this is true for anybody who sends me a dream in that I use on the show. You get a free call with me. So super incentive to do that, to pick up your keyboard and start typing. The trauma's in childhood, and that's also why it's a baby. But why a boy and why bald? Well, hair represents thoughts, so being bald represents not thinking. And this could be Beckie's defensive mechanism. When I am in a super bad place, I'm not going to think about it because that would be an acknowledgement of it. And again, it's going to be obvious for you to know, Beckie, if this is what you do. And why a boy? Well, he has the face of her ex-boyfriend, so we know that this has to do with relationships. But the dream says this horrible feeling you have in relationships today actually comes from your childhood. So you can never fix it by looking at the relationship. You can only fix it by healing the childhood trauma, and that's what the dream is actually attempting to do. The fridge and there being no food tells us you have stomach issues too. They may not be big because there is no damage to the fridge in the dream, and that's good. But what about the doll's furniture? Remember, Beckie also climbs over the furniture to rescue the baby. How we decorate a room is indicative of the influences we have experienced. In reality, we decorate with what we like, what we want to have around us. In a dream, it is a little different. A dream is decorated with furniture that represents any influence, good and bad, but it is often just the bad ones. So what does doll's house furniture represent, and is it good? Well, that's another question that I would ask Beckie, but it's not good because it's in plastic. Plastic is not a natural substance, and if the furniture is in that, and it is also in the fridge, who wants plastic in their food? And in America, you could get into all sorts of things here with chains being accused, no, not accused, found guilty of putting plastic in food because it makes the bread look good. And anyway, now that's what we're on about here, but who wants plastic in their food? So something toxic from childhood is preventing Beckie from healing her predicament. And feeding the baby is symbolic of healing a childhood wound. So when we understand the context of Beckie's childhood, we can easily locate the issue that needs healing. We also have the Christmas wreath. Christmas is a symbol for birth, because it's all about the celebration of the birth of Jesus, but you're everything in a dream, so it's about your birth. And she also points out that it's a dark green wreath. Well, green is the color of the heart chakra, which is all about sharing and balance. So this tells us that Beckie's heart chakra is out of balance due to circumstances at her birth and early childhood because of the infant in the dream. It is very likely that Beckie experiences this today as fear of being open or vulnerable. And I said the vulnerable because the baby was naked, and being naked in a dream is about letting people see you as you are and letting people see you despite that feeling of vulnerability. But that is needed in a relationship. She's also likely to experience envy, and I say that because of the dark green. And why is it important to identify these traits? Well, because as Beckie goes through therapy, she can measure her success based on these traits disappearing from her nature. And indeed, they will disappear. Not when we focus on the traits and trying to heal them, but when we focus on the trauma, what went wrong, what caused the pain, focus on healing that, then those traits disappear. And there we have it. I took a little bit of a different way of explaining how I come at the analysis and full interpretation of a dream. Hope you liked it. Let me know. If you're on YouTube, write in the comments. Tell me whether you want me to do that again. Because it actually took me quite a bit of work to write that all out and do it that way. But it was fun at the same time. And again, Beckie, I will send you a link where you can book me and we can nail any of the other parts and questions about the dream that you may have. Thank you for watching this clip from the Dream Interpretation Podcast. If you want to hear the whole show, there's a link directly under this video. Please like and share with your friends, all of your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast at thedreaminterpretationpodcast.com. That's also where you can submit your dream to the show and have yours featured. You can also download my free dictionary that has thousands of symbols that will help you understand the meaning of your dreams. Thanks for listening.